What is going on, everyone? This is the Nuts and Bolts Sports NFC Wildcard Preview Show. Got a bunch of great stuff to get into today. I'm Dominic Choroski hosting. We have a ton of MBS regulars who work with us all the time. Got a bunch of great stuff to talk about. We're going to go through all of these NFC matchups for this weekend. It's playoffs. These are when games matter the most. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel. Got a great group of guys. First up, Mr. Jeff Barnes is going to be joining us today. Help us decipher what's going on in the playoffs on the side of the NFC.
Glad to be back, man. It's glad to be back.
Absolutely. And, of course, we have Mr. Greg joining us today as well. Got two Cowboy fans on. I don't know how that happened, but we'll see how it works out.
Well, you know.
I'm impartial when I'm analyzing. I'm impartial.
That's right. We do tend to try to be as impartial as possible.
There we go. Next up, we have Monte joining us today. Mr. Monte Perez, how are you doing today, sir?
Guys, I'm so fired up. You know, there's a scene from one of my favorite movies, 61. Billy Crystal directed about Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, and the Yankees. And Mickey Mantle says, man, if you can't get fired up coming to the ballpark every day, you're in the wrong business. If you can't get fired up for this week, the playoff game Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We just had a college football national championship. If you're not fired up right now, you're in the wrong business.
Yep. Definitely.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Bulldogs also for winning that national championship. Finally got the monkey off of their back. Someone was finally able to beat Saban.
Absolutely.
And, of course, let's go ahead and bring in our other guest, Mr. George Lopez joining us. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. In case you guys don't know, where my loyalty goes for this weekend. Looking forward. It's going to be some great playoff games this weekend, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think one of the reasons why I'm so excited is my Packers have a bye.
There's a bunch of really good matchups. We're actually going to save that Rams. Go ahead, Monty. Sorry.
No, I was just saying I'm so excited because my Packers have a bye. So I don't have any dog in the fight, so to speak. I'm just going to relax, take a week off, and just enjoy it, not be stressed, and see what happens 2 weeks from today or from Sunday.
Well, good luck with that.
Sounds like a good plan. You got the easy week. You got the stress-free. Yeah, you got the stress-free week out of everyone up here. I do want to start off, though. We can go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to save that Cardinals and Rams game for last because I think that one's probably the most heavily contested one. I think that's the one that we're all kind of really excited to see. Let's start off with the early window, though, on Sunday. Eagles and Bucks. What I think a lot of people would look at is probably one of the more lopsided matchups for this wild card week. You have the Eagles and the Bucks. Just want to first throw this out to you guys. The thing that stood out to me about this game was its strength versus strength. The Eagles found out early on in the season, but they really started to stick with it, that they're a really good rushing team. They run the ball very well, and they've been able to run the ball against good defenses. They put up over 200 rushing yards against the Saints earlier in the season. And then obviously the Bucks, they're weak in the secondary, but up front, they stop the run better than anyone in the NFL. So just looking at it from that angle, I want to see what are you guys' thoughts about who kind of gets the edge in that matchup when it comes to the Eagles' run game versus the Buccaneers' rush defense.
Well,
Jeff, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, it's not as cut and dry with the Buccaneers' run defense. And when we started to see the chinks in the armor, even though they got everybody back later in the season, last few games, we started to see they were giving up a few chunk plays here, a little more consistently giving up some runs on the ground. And and against a Panther team last week where they didn't rest anybody. They gave up quite a bit on the ground early and often in that game. So I think when you look at it, the Eagles are going to have some success in this game. They're not going to be overwhelmingly have the success that they had last week against, a half starting Dallas defense last week, because there was at the linebacker level, all you had was Leighton Vander Esch, But so when you look at what you saw last week, everybody panicked in Dallas from what they saw. You saw a good Eagles running team. That's what they do well. Take it to them early, but they couldn't sustain it. I expect that to continue. They're going to try and take it to the Bucks early. If they have early success, they won't be able to sustain it in the second half, because what they're going to have most of the success on the outside. Eventually, they'll scheme up how to stop it and try and force them to go into the strength, which is the middle. They're going to struggle there. Pressure on the quarterback. We know about Jalen Hurts. Expect Jalen Hurts to have his moments and break a couple of runs in this, but he's going to be the biggest damage. He's going to do the biggest damage to that Bucks defense. If it comes on the ground, the other backs will have a little success. When Jalen Hurts is able to get outside off a zone read every once in a while, get out the pocket and break for big yards on a pass play when he's able to elude the rush, because they like to blitz, and guess what? He likes to run. So it's going to be up to the Bucks defense to mix up man and zone blitzes. This way he can't exactly pinpoint exactly which one they're dropping into. It slows him down and allows the rush to keep him contained and get the sack, as opposed to letting them sneak out when they're in man and go for big gains. In zone, they could at least limit his runs. And man, he's going to give up big gains.
I think Jalen Hurts and his rushing ability is a very good aspect to bring into it as well, because it's not just like a traditional, they're getting it through running backs as well, but Jalen Hurts has been fantastic running out of the backfield as well, something that we kind of assumed that they would use for this offense. Greg, you were jumping in there.
Yep.
What do you feel about this matchup between the Eagles and the Bucks?
Just to follow up with what Jeff was talking about, the Buccaneers gave up the fourth most rushing yards to quarterbacks overall. So and Jalen, of course, he does his damage, right? So they have been giving up more yardage than necessary. Of course, everybody's going to say, well, they're the defending champs, they've got every advantage and all that good stuff, but we've seen them lay eggs. And against NFC East opponent, they laid a huge egg against Washington, who's they're no scary franchise for what happened to them this year, and they were beaten by them. The Eagles have this thing too, because they put on as much of a run as the Dolphins did in the AFC over in the NFC. So they've scratched and clawed their way for many, many weeks. So they're going to be up to the challenge of a playoff atmosphere, even though it's stacked against them.
I think Dom's on a delay.
So
yeah,
there's an aspect of this game that I think
yeah, we got a delay with Dom.
This might be me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I back now?
There, Dom?
I may have to drop out and.
All right, I'll give my take, then we'll have George go. Is that all right?
Yeah. We'll continue with the takes. Go on, Monty.
Yeah,
all right,
go ahead.
So you guys hit the nail on the head here. Jalen Hurts rushed for over 784 yards, 5.6 yards per carry. The Eagles are averaging almost 160 yards per game on the ground. One of the things that we got to look for here with Jalen Hurts is he's only completing 61% of his passes. And one of the things to look for, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but 9 fumbles. So he is fumbling the ball a lot. Now, he only lost 2 of those fumbles. But when you're a quarterback and you drop back and you fumble the ball, that's kind of like a missed free throw, right? It's a wasted possession. But just look at some of these stats here. Miles Sanders averaging 5.5 yards a carry. Scott, 4.3 yards per carry. Former Chicago Bears, Jordan Hayward, 4.7 yards per carry. So this team can run the ball. They really have to establish the run, set up the play action. Devontae Smith is having a good year. Dallas Goedert is having a good year, but they don't pass the ball a lot. Those two guys combined barely broke 1,000 yards on offense. Where you look at, Tampa Bay, Dallas, where they have 2, 3 guys almost catching for 1,000 yards. But the thing here is, even though Tampa Bay is number 2 in total offense, 415 yards per game, there's no Antonio Brown. There is no Godwin. So who are you going to rely on? Mike Evans? Yeah, Mike Evans is a great number 2, great number 3. I don't know if Mike Evans is a legitimate number 1. On a bad team, he may be, but not on a great team.
Oh, 8 straight years of 1,000-yard
Yeah.
receiving. He's a number. He's okay. Obviously.
I look at 1,000 yards like I look as a running back. There's 16 games now. I think Mike Evans is a good wide receiver. I don't think he's top 7, top 10.
No, but he's not a scrub when you start your career at 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. That's all I'm saying.
He's legit, but they were 6-0 with Antonio Brown in the lineup. So whatever they had going there, whatever you want to say about Antonio Brown, they had something going. Rob Gronkowski, we know come playoff time, over the middle, he's going to be open. The question here is, you look at Tampa Bay, right? And now since they don't have Antonio Brown, they don't have Godwin, their rushing offense is down. They only average 98.4 yards per game. So this is a heavy passing offense. Tom Brady, number 1 passing offense this year, over 307 yards. So this is going to be the same formula that San Francisco is going to use. This is going to be the same formula that the Steelers have to use against Kansas City. Basically, the Eagles have to control the clock, and they got to run the ball and put Tom Brady on the sidelines.
Well, absolutely, but again, it's you just mentioned the guy's name, right? I mean, you give him 17 seconds, and it's 3 or 7 points. But he just has continually done this for 20 years, right?
The Jets saw that 2 weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much time you leave on the clock. You got to get this to the point where you're putting the ball through that goalpost, and those 4 zeros are up there, and you walk away, right?
Yeah.
And
field goals ain't going to cut it.
No, but I mean, I'm saying if you've got a close game, you're tied at the end of it, you want to be the Eagles kicking that field goal with zeros on the clock. Exactly. I mean, right? Yeah. There's just no doubt about it. The other thing to remember, too, is that Tom Brady does have the propensity in playoff games, we saw it last year, to turn the ball over. If the Eagles get those turnovers, playoff games are decided by those bounces, right? Those crazy things that happen. And if the Eagles get them to their advantage, they can stay with the Buccaneers.
Well, let's let George get his in before we continue to argue this.
Yeah, my biggest concern with Philadelphia, the lack of experience come playoff time. I remember the 85 NFC Championship game, the Rams against the Bears, and we all know how the game ended. The Rams obviously were a running team. They had, the great Eric Dickerson as a running back. And that game, John Robinson changed their game plan. They came out throwing with Dieter Brock. And he tried to avoid running against that 46 defense. And that was basically doomsday for them. You couldn't change who you are. And I'm a little concerned. Will Philadelphia try to do that, knowing that Tampa Bay's got a great run defense and they're weak in the secondary? Will they try to exploit that secondary? And if they do that, that's going to take them away from who they are, and the game will be over before it even starts. I agree. They got to stick with the run. They got to stay with it early. They got to do what got them, do what got you to the dance. Yep. Don't change who you are. If they do that, I think, they're going to go in there like, we have nothing to lose. No one's giving us a chance. Treat it like Rocky versus Apollo. Just go in there and be you. And I think they have a chance to shock the world. Yep. I don't think they'll do it, but they have a chance.
They have a shot at it, and don't forget, they've got enough guys that are left over from that Super Bowl roster still. They've got veteran leadership over there in Philadelphia on both sides, defense and the offensive line, with Kelsey and guys like that. They've been there, they've done this, so they know what it takes.
And something to watch for too. Leonard Fournette had 69 receptions. You don't think of Leonard Fournette as a dual threat running back, but Tom Brady really started to believe in him and trust him on third down. So that's another thing, another weapon. Without Godwin, without Antonio Brown, look for a lot of screen plays to their running backs.
I was going to say, so I was talking, someone was talking about it earlier. Fournette he's a big time running back. He really was shining in the playoffs last year. He seems to step up more when the lights get brighter. So I am expecting him to have that type of playoff run as well.
And I see they made a Rocky reference. Well, here's another one. All right. Here's another one. You want to go to 15 with Creed. Can they go to 15 with Brady? Can they go 4 quarters? Because if you watch how the Eagles play, when they're in those big flurries early, they tend to slow down in the second half. You can't have that if you want to beat the Bucs. You have to keep pouring points on in the second half to beat the Buccaneers. And that's something that the Eagles failed to do. Even if you look at the last game of the season, when they were scoring early on Dallas, they stopped scoring in the second half.
They stopped.
And that game got out of control.
Yeah.
All right. So if they're not going to be able to come out there and consistently put up points for 4 quarters, you're not going to beat Tampa Bay, especially in Tampa Bay. So you saw the Jets. The Jets had them dead to rights, and it would have never come down. It would have never come down to that ridiculous 4th and 2 call that the Jets continued to put up points in the second half,
which they didn't do. And that's the biggest difference from that Super Bowl Eagles team, which was a 60-minute. Every week, you got 60 full minutes out of that team that won the Super Bowl for them. This year, you have those gaps in effort, I think, and it's going to be their undoing, I think, against Tampa.
One of the things to look for: Todd Bowles against a young quarterback. Todd Bowles is one of the long lines. You look at the Wade Phillips, you look at the North Turners of the world. Great coordinators, wasn't a great head coach. But Todd Bowles, a veteran, defensive-minded guy who just really loves to put you in 3rd and long situations. I'm just worried about the young Eagle quarterback, Jalen Hurts, against the defensive coordinator for Tampa, Todd Bowles.
I think the biggest factor for Philadelphia is going to be their defense. If they can keep it close, they're not going to have to abandon the running game. But if Brady and company start just piling on points, they're going to lose the running game, and then they're going to have to rely on Jalen Hurts' arm. And the defense has got to keep them within striking distance all game. And, Jeff said it right. They have to be consistent all 4 quarters. They can't dominate for a quarter or play great for a quarter and then just not show up the rest of the game. It's got to be all 4 quarters. They got to stay within striking distance. And I think if they can wear down Tampa Bay's front.
The key too is, this, guys, you don't want to get, if you're the Eagles, in a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 9, and 3rd and 7. You want to keep it as a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5. So Jalen Hurts, being the dual threat quarterback, again, he's averaging 5 yards a carry, rushed for over 750 yards. 3rd and 3, a defensive coordinator doesn't know what to do with a dual threat quarterback.
Well, exactly, but that's where even though you don't see the big yardages out of the Smiths and the Goddards and stuff, those receptions that they get, a lot of them are 3rd downs to become 1st downs.
Yeah,
they are very good at that. When they have played well, you're getting Goddard. They needed 3 yards. He got you 7. Smith, bang, they got you 17 because the defense was up and they were thinking Hurts was running, right? So that's when they do strike. They're not the most proficient offense in the world, but they are effective.
It's funny, George, because we're sitting here and we have 2 Dallas Cowboy fans rooting for the Eagles. The hatred of Brady runs deep.
It's not rooting. It's not rooting.
No, but you guys are rooting.
It's what we've seen, though.
We're all rooting for the Eagles to knock off Brady, right?
No, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing. Trust me, the one thing I would never ever root for as a fan, especially as a Cowboy fan, is root for any kind of Eagles success. So you could forget that. All right. All right. Listen,
that doesn't happen.
After Buddy Ryan in '89, I would never root for the Eagles to save my life. Okay.
Yeah, that one just doesn't happen.
So let's give this one 2 more minutes. Let's get our predictions in for this one, and then we'll move on to the next matchup. So let's start this out. Since we started out with George last, let's go back to George. What's your prediction for this game?
Well, as much as I can't stand the man, and it has more of him to be with Belichick, but with the Patriots, and I don't buy into him being the GOAT, And Greg actually had a great comment about that on his podcast when he said maybe best of his era, because it really is hard to define someone as the greatest of all time, because someone can come down 10 years from now and destroy every record Brady's ever set. But that being said, I do expect it to be a close game, but in the end, I am taking Tampa Bay, and I'm going Tampa Bay 27-17 over Philadelphia.
Okay. All right. Monty?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. I think it'll be competitive for the first 3 quarters, but I think the Bucks will be up 4. Excuse me. Tom Brady scores late. I'm going 31-21 Bucks.
All right, Greg.
I hate being this damn close to a Monty prediction.
Oh, I can see Greg struggling with this one.
No, like he just almost banged my number off perfectly here. And are you kidding me? I've got a 31-20 for the Bucks.
You were going to say 31-21, weren't you?
No, I had 31-20, but
Okay.
you go 31-21. I'm going off for crying out loud.
All right, I guess that just leaves just me. Well, I think this is going to be one of those games where they're going to go back and forth in the first half. It's going to be close. I think eventually Tampa Bay comes back in the second half, gets things going a little bit, is able to pull away. I'm going to get them in the 30s as well. Originally, I didn't think so, but I think they're going to get to the 30s. I'm going to go 31-17 Tampa Bay.
There we go.
All right. So,
and what do they say when all 4 people on the panel pick one team, go the other way?
Well, this year has been that year.
Yeah.
This year has been that
Tough.
year. You know, if you're definitely a football fan and you want parity and you're tired of having that one powerhouse team, 2021 is your year, because there was no powerhouse this year.
Absolutely
Every
not.
winning team lost to a losing team this year.
And some more than others.
True, very true.
Yes. All right. So let's move on to matchup number 2. And half the panel of fans of it. So we've been beaten up about this one for the past couple of days. Okay. We know it's a classic rivalry renewed. Unfortunately, folks, Dom is having technology issues, so he is not in the room at the moment. So we're going to kind of cobble this hosting together as we go along. So Dallas, San Francisco, we saw it in the 80s. Like I said, my first memory of football as a Cowboy fan is 81, Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone. And then watching, unfortunately, the not so captain comeback, Danny White. Yeah.
Well, but you know what? You got to remember, Pearson almost broke it right before that fumble. If Hicks doesn't make that horse collar tackle, Dallas wins.
Yeah, well,
there was a lot of what ifs in that game.
George Montgomery Scott said it best. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. Okay, you know, and right there is it. You know, Danny White had the chance to do it. He didn't get it done. No. And history is what it is. You know, and that was my first memory. That was the last real memory of me having my team get very, very close to a Super Bowl before we actually started winning them in the 90s. Against, once again, that rivalry renewed, Cowboys-Niners. So here we have it for the first time since 94, these two teams meeting in the playoffs. 2 different paths. Dallas won a division, goes into the last week, only playing for seeding. San Francisco had to go in overtime to save their playoff lives. Comes into this game, a team that's built on the run, that's going to run it no matter what, does everything that they're doing to get in and get a win, and they've found a way to get it done. They're finally healthy compared to the middle of the season. Dallas, on the other hand, healthy compared to the beginning and middle of the season. All right, so here we have this matchup. Let's get into it. Let's deep dive into this one. And we're not going to start with a Cowboy fan because nobody can accuse us of being a homer. All right, Monty, you're up first.
All right. Well, you know, I look at this game, and one of the things that, you know, I've been hearing for so long how Shanahan is a genius, right? He's such a good coach. He understands what his team needs to do offensively. So one of the things the fans need to look for is Dallas' 2 biggest playmakers, okay, Minka Parsons and Diggs. They are super aggressive, fast playmakers. Look for a lot of misdirection. Look for a lot of, you know, fake the handoff, throw it this way, double reverses. What the 49ers are going to try to do is take advantage of this super aggressive Dallas Cowboy defense. Now, one of the things that we're going to look for here is Dallas. We know going in that San Francisco wants to run the ball. And their best player, Deebo Samuel, is actually averaging 6.2 yards per carry as a running back. He's a wide receiver, but they kind of, moved him to the running back because they had so many issues. This is an offensive line that has gotten better as the year has gone on. They've won 4 out of 5 games. On defense, how do you neutralize this high-powered offense? You look at the Dallas Cowboys, and they have 3, 4, even with their injuries, they have 3 great wide receivers. Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa. Wait, what did I say? Joey Bosa has 15 and a half sacks. Okay, so he can put pressure on them. But the key to this game is going to be San Francisco controlling the clock and keeping that Dallas Cowboy offense on the sideline. One of the things to look for, too, as well, is we've seen George Kittle put up super numbers in a few games. He had a 2 or 3 week stretch where he was the number 1 fantasy football guy. So it's going to be interesting to see who Dallas puts on him, because you can't put a defensive back on him because he's too physical, and you can't put a linebacker on him because he gets past him. But if they put Minka Parsons on him, then he's not rushing the quarterback. So that's going to be there's a lot of chess pieces going on with this. Obviously, Dak Prescott has had a phenomenal year. This passing offense is number 1 in the league in passing. You have Cooper. You have your tight end, who's second in receiving. So much for the Cowboys don't have a tight end. You have CeeDee Lamb. So I look at this game, again, Dallas, 7 players, including Gallup, who is injured, who has over 35 catches. Dak Prescott is not targeting one receiver, for example, at Amari Cooper. He's spreading the ball all around. They have 2 elite running backs. I think for me, this is just a classic matchup against a team that wants to run the ball and a team in Dallas that wants to throw the ball. And the Bucs back 4 is not as good as their front 7. So this is the game of the week as far as I'm concerned, just for the coaching matchups that have to go on here.
All right. George.
The funny thing about this, I heard earlier today, Mike McCarthy talking about this. I remember the catch, the 90 playoff series with these 2 teams. A lot of the Cowboys don't know or really understand that rivalry. And there was an interesting fact. I know they played each other in the playoffs in the early 70s as well. The winner of those games had gone on to win the Super Bowl that year. So that's a little interesting tidbit. Now, I grew up watching the Rams in the 70s, so I actually grew up hating the Cowboys because it was either Dallas or Minnesota that knocked my team out of the playoffs every year. So I have no love for that team. But that being said, this game is going to come down to which Dallas team shows up. Are we going to see the team that played against Arizona, where basically they came out flat and were embarrassed at home when I thought Arizona was already on a downtrend and Dallas just didn't show up? Or are we going to see the team that put up 51 points against Philadelphia? And I agree, Monte. I think it's going to come down to, Dak Prescott's going to have a huge game. I don't agree with your assessment about them having 2 elite running backs because I don't think Ezekiel Elliott's elite anymore. His numbers have gone down year after year. He's more of a serviceable back to me. I think they need to run Pollard more. Is Pollard going to play? I don't know.
He's playing. He's playing.
I think Pollard's going to have the bigger game, and Zeke Elliott's going to have to be more of a complementary back. But if they can protect Prescott against that pass rush, Dak Prescott's going to have a huge game against that secondary. And I do think Dallas's defense can contain San Francisco's running game. We know San Francisco's going to run the ball. Shanahan's got at least 30 carries. That's his goal every game. I still think Dallas can hold them to 3 yards a carry. I think their defensive line is better suited than the Rams were at stopping San Francisco's running game. But the big factor too, and I watched him play here with the Rams, the Greg Zuerlein. Does he have the confidence right now? Because Fossil said the other day that Zuerlein's issues is mental. A lot of his misses, he's hooking everything when he misses. and is it in his head?
All right, Greg,
Can I ask Greg something real quick, Jeff?
go right ahead.
Sure, jump at me. Go on.
So no. Well, this is really for both of you. Are you guys shocked at how productive Schultz has been? He has 78 catches,
No.
second on the team, or is it a product of having such elite wide receivers? You can't double team everyone.
The man that's on the screen is going to answer this one.
But yeah, plain and simple, Schultz and Jarwin both were very similar tight ends to begin with. Jarwin, prior to his getting hurt, had a few more yards average than Schultz did. They're very similar type tight ends, and they both are able to get open. They do run pretty decent routes. So if you get Schultz going down the middle of the field and he's open, Dak finds him and there's your yardage. I mean, they're not blocking tight ends by any means. Jarwin is actually one of the absolute worst blocking tight ends in the entire league. Schultz may be a little bit better, but not much. But the fact that they found them, it just makes Lamb, Cooper, Wilson that much more dangerous, because now you do have to still account for Schultz. If you don't account for him, he's going to burn you too.
All right. And Monty, it's your up, right?
No, Greg's back up. I just asked him that question.
Okay.
So since I'm the elder statesman around here, I remember the 1970 and the 1971 championships. Thank you very much, where we won both those against the Niners. I remember the 81 and the 90s. So out of the 6 times we've met in an NFC championship, yes, all 6 times the Super Bowl winner has come out of that game. For this is bully ball versus the guys who are the athletes. Now, the bully ball, of course, is the front four of the Niners. Tyron Smith and Zach Martin better show up as the Pro Bowlers that they've been for their careers. That's the battle right there. If you stymie that bully that the Niners have in their front four, because they only bring pressure with the 4 guys. They are not a blitzing team. And Dak is the number 1 against the blitz as far as the quarterback goes. So you don't want to blitz them anyway. So you're not going to see blitzes out of the Niners. The other key thing that you're going to have is going to the other side of the equation. Yeah, the Niners, if they don't want to run, they better try Randy Gregory's side, because over on that other side on the edge is DeMarcus Lawrence, and there's not too many guys who set an edge better than DeMarcus Lawrence. Plain and simple, he's very good at it. I think you're going to see Micah Parsons, not so much as the edge rusher. I don't think he's going to be used as the edge rusher as much. I think he's just going to make sure that he contains any damage that a Mitchell or a Samuel can do out of the backfield. He's going to be the attack dog on those guys.
Well, San Francisco's getting Trey Sermon back this week too. He was taken off IR.
Yeah, whoever they want to put in their backfield, Micah Parsons is going to be waiting.
One of the big things they like to do, and well, at least they do it against the Rams, is they like to do that quick pitch where they can get the defense to roll with it, and then they try to cut back against the grain. And like Monty said earlier, they're going to try to take advantage of Dallas' quickness. Dallas is going to have to be disciplined and stay in their lanes and not over pursue.
No, and where Dallas has gotten burned is from 20 to 20. That's really where they've gotten burned for the most part. Yes, a couple of times they've had big touchdowns against them, but for the most part, it's been between the 20-yard lines that they've been burned on quote unquote big plays. Monty, you were talking about George Kittle. Jordan Lewis all year long has stopped tight ends.
Yeah. Okay.
He has stopped tight ends.
What do you think they're going to do with Debo? How do you think they're going to approach him?
It's Micah. It's Micah Parsons. He's going to get a full dose of Mr. Parsons, and that's 6'3", 248 pounds coming at you, and he's not slow.
No, he's not.
Yeah. Before we switch over to Monty for his take, listen, Greg, I'm glad you went clean shaven. And because you have always reminded me of this, and now that I got you on it, I gotta show you, because you know exactly who I'm talking about. And
here we go.
You 2 guys got to let me know if I am accurate on this depiction.
Here we go. I knew it. I knew I was going to get. I knew I was going to get Ed Norton.
I don't know, but I saw Greg put with a cowboy hat on. I thought it was the Marlboro Man. Greg, that's a nice picture.
Oh wait, I can't picture Greg in a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
George, go read my art. Go read my article. Scroll down to the profile, and you will
Oh,
see
man.
the cowboy hat. I'm in cowboy country. I mean, this is the home of the Calgary Stampede. 10 days of rodeo and all that good stuff. You know.
Marlboro Man.
Yes. So, Monty, let's get you going here, and then I'll add my
Actually,
little 2
I
cents.
was the first one with
You're the
Dallas, so
first,
you close it out.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to close it out.
Gotcha. All right. Very well. Well, listen, I've said it before. I said they were the better matchup than Arizona for a reason. Okay, this quarterback fits what their defense does best. He's a pocket passer. They are excellent at attacking the pocket. All right. The running game is going to give them a problem from time to time. If you notice the Dallas defense, they give up runs in spurts. Okay, they don't give up a lot of it all game long. It's okay. They may have a couple of drives where they struggle, and then they shut you down. And then you may have a drive where they get up some yards, and then they shut it back down. All right, you're not going to be able to beat them with spurts. All right, you're going to have to beat them with a consistent all-day running game. Denver was the only game that happened. We saw that was the one game that it was a toss away because they haven't repeated that kind of performance all year long where it was just dreadful. They couldn't stop anything. So I'm going to say Dallas wins this one, and it's not going to be going away. All right, it's going to be 26-20. All right, the guy that's missed kicks is going to miss a couple. He's going to miss an extra point in this game. All right, so 26-20, Dallas.
I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers in an
I
upset.
knew this was coming.
30.
This was so predictable. In your entire life, you have never once been able to admit Dallas Cowboys are a good franchise.
Hold on.
You are constantly doing this. And
In
this
week
is
12, I've had Dallas in my top 6 and 7 all year. In week
you were
12,
trying to curse us. That's why.
In week 12, I had them number 1. I just think I told this to Greg after I read his article. By the way, check out his prediction on nutsandboltsports.com. But I said, whenever I'm a 50-50, I go by 2 things, right? I say, who has the better quarterback? Who has the better coach? Now, obviously, Dak Prescott is a better quarterback, but I think I think this team's weakness ultimately will show up in Mike McCarthy. I am not a believer in Mike McCarthy.
Wait. So you're saying Shanahan's the better coach?
Yeah.
All I'm going to say was about that.
Wow.
Shanahan, offensive coordinator, 28-3. He screwed up play calling. He had that Super Bowl against Kansas City, and he sucked in the fourth quarter calling plays.
Who has been better? Last year, McCarthy was awful. His last 2 years in Green Bay, he was awful. Matt LaFleur has gone 13-3, 13-3, 13-4 since Mike McCarthy left.
How many rings does he have?
What's that?
How many Super Bowls appearances does he have?
Who's that?
LaFleur.
So he's been there for 3
0.
years.
How many times has he gone to the dance?
Wait, so you guys think Mike McCarthy is a better coach than Shanahan?
Yeah. Yeah.
McCarthy has a ring. McCarthy won the game.
McCarthy has a ring, but his problem was he didn't evolve. That's why the Green Bay Packer offense with Aaron Rodgers sucked. You see what they do without him. Okay?
You know what you're going to find this weekend, Monty? You've got the defensive coordinator who's been listed in every job that's open.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn's name is there. Kellen Moore's name is in there too. You don't think Kellen Moore's going to put on a show for NFL teams this weekend?
Well,
I think you're going to see. No, let me finish here. What I'm going to say is Kellen Moore is going to shock people because, of course, and I've said it, he's got that Linehan in him, that vanilla predictability that's driving me bananas. I think you're going to see stuff that you have not seen the Cowboys do whatsoever. There's going to be something. And where this gets decided, like a lot of playoff games, it's going to be a special teams play. It's going to be something that you're not expecting to have happen. And for once, you're not going to see a Dallas Cowboys team have a bad start. You are not going to see it.
All right, George. What was your prediction, George?
Well, I hate both teams. bottom line. But this is a head pick, not heart pick. So otherwise, I would root for a 0-0 tie, though that's not possible. But Jimmy G, at some point, is going to make a mistake. He just does. He's a game manager. He's not an elite quarterback, but at some point, he will make a mistake. And I do think, and I agree, I think Dallas is going to come out firing on all cylinders from the opening kickoff. The crowd is going to be crazy. It's not going to be, you're not going to hear Niner fans like you did Sunday at SoFi. That is going to be 98% Dallas. And I do think Dallas is going to come out on top. I have this game 28-13. I just don't see San Francisco.
Blowout.
I've got it closer than that, but in the end, I've got the Cowboys, like I wrote in my article. I've got it 31-23 for the Cowboys. And one thing that other people are writing off and all this other stuff, I put it in my article this year. Mr. Sirianni in Philadelphia put on a T-shirt. What happened? The boys went out and attacked. That whole bunch in the DMV area where Joe and all those other guys hang out, were screaming, "We want Dallas." You do you? This team has a different mentality than other Cowboys teams have had for many years. They have, and I wrote about it when they drafted those kids. It's a dog mentality, and the dogs are going to be turned loose this weekend.
And can we just hold off on Quinn getting another job? I know he's a hot commodity right now, but what we saw in Atlanta after they lost the Super Bowl, that team self-imploded. That team got worse. And one of the things you try to look for, and not to get, I know we're talking about NFC, is, you look at what happened with the Miami situation. The Miami Dolphins under Brian Flores got better every year. They took a step back this year, but they had injuries. But the guy won. Like, let's not. Quinn failed after they lost the Super Bowl. Was everything
that went wrong in Atlanta after that Dan Quinn's fault? There was
part of it was
yeah.
He should have never brought Sarkisian in to replace. Right, that was the first mistake.
That was the first mistake. Absolutely.
Right. And he just never got it right after.
There was a whole lot of things that went wrong in Atlanta besides Sarkisian being there. You had a ton of things hit that team.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then they got the Super Bowl. They got the Super Bowl curse, which is
the hangover. They had the hangover.
Well, besides the hangover, just the fact of the matter is you have that success, you get there, whether you win or lose, and teams come around in the offseason and pick your bones. They take your assistants, and it's not so much as players. Right. So no matter what, that team was pulverized afterwards, and the drafts were not as good.
Yeah, they got demoralized blowing that 28-3 lead in the third quarter, and they just never came back from that.
So let me ask you, to the Cowboy guys here. So does this matter for do the Dallas Cowboys have to get to the NFC Championship for Kellen Moore and Quinn to get a head coaching job?
No. I think
Absolutely
Kellen Moore
not.
needs it more than Dan Quinn. I think Dan
Moore
Quinn
needs it more.
The turnaround he did after the damage that Mike Nolan did, which is why I was critical of McCarthy last year because of the staff that he put. Yeah. But he addressed that mistake by bringing in a guy who understands how to utilize the players that you have, not the players that you want. All right. So that was a big turnaround on that. Number two, he was smart enough to stay out of the way, let the young kid call the offense, let the experienced defensive coordinator and his staff work. And I'm going to be a true head coach and manage the process, manage my coaches, not so much manage the players.
How about this?
He took control of the locker room, and I give him credit for that.
Madden simulation, 35-14, Dallas wins.
if it is that big of a spread, all that tells me,
I'll be surprised.
I would be surprised.
I'll be surprised.
George won it. George thinks it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not going to surprise me.
But a big spread like that tells me something, and that means that Trayvon Diggs got a pick six in this game. They've got a couple of fumble recoveries. They've gotten everything to go their way.
Yeah, I'm not foolish enough to believe that there will not be issues with Armstead inside.
That's right.
All right. I'm not foolish enough. I don't believe Connor Williams can handle him all game without problems. He's going to give him a problem in the running game. He's going to give him a problem in protection at times. I won't be surprised if there are going to be drives where they look awful because the offensive line is going to struggle.
Well, Armstead's a defensive tackle, right? He's going to get double team all day.
Oh, but Tyler Biadasz and Connor Williams in that particular side-by-side equation, you're still going to get pressure. And that's why I wrote about, especially in the pass game, Ezekiel is going to be blocking again, whether you like it or not. He is going to be blocking. You got to chip Bosa on the outside with the tight end. You're not going to stop him. But again, Zeke is going to have to go out there too to block. One thing though, today he talked about it with his history about big games. He's had 2 playoff games. 125 yards plus both times. The college football championship when he did his damage at Ohio State. He loves this big stage. If Ezekiel Elliott is okay knee-wise, which it appears to be, I mean, he had almost 90 against the Eagles in whatever you want to call that game. But if Ezekiel Elliott is possessed, he might break 1 or 2.
Yeah, well, there's going to be surgery on that knee this offseason. I guarantee it.
I believe so.
I said that all season. I
Yeah.
said all season.
Yeah.
We got to get to the big matchup that we were waiting for on the show, and George has the hat on, so George gets to go first. All right. So, George, here we are. The Monday night matchup, first time Monday night football for the playoffs, for the wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. All right. Let us know how you feel about the Rams and Cardinals.
Well, it's, there's not going to be any surprise. It's a divisional matchup, third time seeing each other. So there's going to be no surprise. Both teams know exactly what they like to do. They know their tendencies. It's just going to come down to who can execute better. Someone posted on the chat earlier, can the Cardinals win without Hopkins? They've done that a lot this year. So not having Hopkins hurts, but they're used to playing without him. Now I know JJ Watt may play. It's a toss-up right now, but I don't think he's really going to be much of a factor. I think he's done. I would be more worried if it was TJ Watt on the defensive line. This game is going to come down to one, the Rams have got to run the damn ball. When they beat Arizona in Arizona, Sony Michel had a great game. They got to stay with that formula. They got to run the ball, and getting Cam Akers back. It's a great 1-2 combination. It reminds me a little bit of Todd Gurley and CJ Anderson when they made their Super Bowl run. They had the double running back combination. That's what McVay's got with Akers and Sony Michel. So he's got to get the running game going, and Stafford's got to protect the ball. He's going on his crazy little streak with turning the ball over multiple times per game. That's got to end. And we know Arizona's going to do what they can to try to negate Cooper Kupp. Van Jefferson and OBJ, they got to have big games. Kupp's going to get his, but in the passing game, the play action, the rollout, moving the pocket, Beckham and Jefferson got to have big games, as well as Tyler Higbee. And on defense, can we contain Connor? Connor had a big game against us in Arizona that Monday night. So the Rams defense has got to step up because they just imploded in the second half last week. So Arizona's going to try to run. Got to contain Kyler Murray. And Arizona is more dangerous on the road than they are at home. So I'm a little concerned about this game. I'm actually still debating whether or not I'm going. I'm looking at tickets, whether or not I'm going to take my younger son, Ramon, and go to that game Monday night. So he wants to go. I'm still debating, but it's going to be an exciting game. I actually think Dallas and San Francisco was a more marquee matchup. But this is going to be a tremendous game. But it's going to be Rams got to run the ball, and they got to contain Kyler Murray.
All right, Monty, you're up. We're gonna try and do this within the next 10 minutes because I don't want us to knock no huddle off schedule. So we got 10 minutes to wrap this up.
Okay. All right. So again, they split during the regular season. On October 3rd, Arizona dominated them 137-20. Rams got revenge on December 13th, 30-23. So if I'm Sean McVay, right, he was undefeated until last week. Once he has a lead at halftime, he never lost until last weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. The first series, what I do is I go to Odell Beckham Jr. I get Odell Beckham Jr. involved, and this way you say to yourself, okay, they're going to OBJ. We got to start cheating towards him. You want to get Cooper Kupp 8 to 10 touches during the game, but don't force feed it at the start. The biggest concern for me and my biggest question mark going into this game is, can the Rams keep keep the Arizona offense at a third and 7, 3rd and 8? Because again, we talked about this with Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. When Arizona has 3rd and 5, you have Connor, who can run the ball, who could do the screen. You have Kyler Murray, who, when he scrambles around, he's getting 3-4 yards minimum. So you got to put Arizona in a 3rd and long and make sure that Kyler Murray is contained. Now, my question for George here is, do you put a spy on Kyler Murray because you don't want him breaking down? Greg's shaking his head no. I say yes.
Because of Kyler Murray's the way he plays, yeah, it would make sense to put a spy on him. I don't see Morris doing that. I think outside of Reader, I think I know they lost Ernest Jones to injury, but Tavis Howard, I think he has the speed to stay with him, and all the Rams got to do on the edge, Leonard Floyd and Von Miller has just got to contain the edge. Don't rush past him to open up the outside. So I don't see them putting a spy on him. I just see them trying to contain him in the pocket and let Robinson and Aaron Donald put pressure up the middle.
Yeah, I just think that if you let Kyler Murray get going with his feet, that gets momentum for him, and you don't want to see him put a Michael Vick or a Colin Kaepernick type of performance where he's rushing for 85, 90 yards and throwing for 290. So that's my biggest concern. And as for Matthew Stafford, I'm not concerned with the interceptions. He's number 3, I think, in the fourth quarter in passing rating. He threw for over 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns. This guy is a huge upgrade to Jared Goff. Yes, I know he had 17 interceptions, but I'm not worried about that. Again, Tom Brady had 3 interceptions last year against the Green Bay Packers in the second half, but he still made plays. Once Stafford gets rolling, when he gets hot, he can complete 11 for 11, 12 for 12. So I don't care about the interceptions because, like I said, in the fourth quarter, he's the top 3 in passer rating.
All right, Greg.
I would care about interceptions with a guy named Buda Baker back there because you're going to get a return for 6 on you in a quick hurry. This is the playoffs. You can't have the turnovers. Turnovers decide playoff games. You lose that turnover battle, you're going to lose that game over 85% of the time. So you can't be willy-nilly and not be concerned about turnovers. You have to be focused on that. You just can't have them in the playoffs. The Cardinals are such an anomaly. I mean, okay, not really. I mean, if you've ever been to Phoenix for any game there, half the crowd is from somewhere else and they dominate the stadium. But 3-5 at home and then 8-1 on the road. They love the road. And their defensive ratings and offense both measured way better on the road, right? Weird, absolutely weird to see, but that's what it was. The other thing about this is the last time that they did meet and why I was shaking my head no, Aaron Donald nailed Kyler 3 times in that December game. He got to him. They're able to contain him straight up. They don't have to put a spy on Kyler Murray. They're going to be able to do what they have to do to contain him, like George said. Miller on the outside, setting a good edge, etc. They can contain Kyler Murray. The one thing that worries me is that Cardinals defense. I've seen them do it often enough this year. They get that timely turnover that changes a game's momentum. That's the one thing that I would worry about if I was the Rams is when a mistake happens, right? Because if it's at the wrong time, they're going to be on the short end of this stick. But this has got the makings of a really, really good playoff game, though.
All right. Well, the rubber match, we've seen it go both ways. Arizona dominated the first meeting. The Rams were able to get revenge the second time around. Both of these teams, like we said, have had their ups and downs this season. Every time you were convinced they were the class of the division, possibly the conference, they've let you down. Well, I think last week was no more evident that both of them did it at the same time. So when you look at it, I think that this is going to be a game where it's going to have its ebbs and flows. One of them is going to jump out early, hit the other with a big shot that's going to knock them down. They're going to come storming back, and it's going to go on for a little while till late in the third quarter. Somebody's going to take a foothold, and I think that team's going to be Arizona, but it doesn't hold in the fourth. I think at the end, you're talking about maybe with about 20 seconds, maybe a little bit less, I think Stafford throws the winning touchdown in this game. So I think it's going to be one of those games where you have a very entertaining game. It's going to be Monday night, the only game in town. And in the end, I think you're going to have a Rams victory 34-33.
Ooh. I was very close on the numbers with you then, and I think it's going to be the same sort of ending. It's Stafford at the very end, and they were trailing in the way that I looked at it, 34-31. I got them winning 38-34 at the very end.
I got it 31-27. I think the fourth quarter the Rams will be ahead, and Kyler Murray scores a late touchdown. But I have the Rams winning this one 31-27.
I have it 31-28. Matt Gay kicking the game-winning field goal. Stafford driving him down on a tie game, and Matt Gay kicking the game winner.
All right. So we've given all of our predictions. Let's look a little forward here. Okay. So out of the 4-5 matchup, let's just say the other two games go as we expect. The top seed wins. The Bucks knock off the Eagles, Cowboys knock off the Niners. 4-5 seed. Which one of these two teams stands the best chance of going to Green Bay and winning? Because here you talk about it. You have an indoor team in the Rams. You have an indoor team in the Cardinals, both from the West Coast. Which one of those teams has the best chance of going into sub-zero Green Bay and winning?
I would say the Rams.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I would say the Rams. Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. He is, but he's a Texas boy. He played at Oklahoma. He plays indoors in Arizona. He's not used to that cold weather. And I don't think his game would work. I mean, I just think Green Bay matches up better with them. The Rams match up with Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay beat them by 8, but in the second half of that game earlier this year, the Rams started making plays. Now, the key is, how do they contain Aaron Rodgers? And that's the one thing they haven't been able to do. And Rodgers is probably having the best season of his career. But at some point, outside of the year they won the Super Bowl, he has a so-so playoff game. And I think the Rams, between the two, I think the Rams are a better matchup in Green Bay against the Packers than Arizona.
What were you going to say, Monty?
No, I think I agree with George. Anytime you have Aaron Donald, clogging up the middle, he could put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He could clog up the middle. But I will say this about the Packers, and one of the reasons why I have LaFleur should win Coach of the Year is from the first year he got there until now, he has totally transformed this team. They are not so heavy reliant on Aaron Rodgers. They have a two running back system with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. This team can win with power now. They can win running the ball 30 times a game. It was early on in the season, but they punched San Francisco in the mouth. San Francisco dominated in the NFC Championship the previous 2 years when they played them. They bullied them. This team is physical on offense. Their defense still struggles against the run at times, but if Aaron Rodgers could get an early lead on the LA Rams, and then you have to put them in position where they're going to throw the ball, that plays right into the defense's hands. I think the Rams could give them a legitimate test, but I think the Packers right now playing at home are going to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Greg, what you got to say about that one?
Interesting. I wonder how he came up with that clearing so long for him. Being such a Rodgers and Packers fan for many years that he has been. But anyhow, I really would prefer to see the Rams would be the one to go there. Of course, it's because of what they can do with their line. I think that they can cause some issues. I also think that they can limit AJ and Aaron better than what the Cardinals could do as far as on the ground goes. I would like LA's chances better in Green Bay.
And Greg,
All
let me
right.
just correct you. I am not an Aaron Rodgers fan anymore, but I can separate.
Anymore. Yes,
Yeah.
it's another divorce with a man crush. Another one.
Well, no, because in all fairness, let's be honest. He's kind of a jerk of a human being when you put it. He's a misogynist. He's an egomaniac, which most quarterbacks are. But what Aaron Rodgers has done this year, it just turned me off to him. To be honest with you, if they lose, I'm not going to be that upset because it's hard to root for someone who appears to be a jerk.
Well, see, Monte, he dumped Aaron Rodgers because Justin Herbert started playing pretty well,
Yeah.
So we already know, from Mariota to Rodgers to now, I got Herbert now.
Oh, don't forget we had Russell and we've had Carson.
Next year will be Joe Burrow.
My brother in anger and I, we were used to this with Monty. It's a new crush every year. We just get used to it. I mean,
it'll be Joe Burrow next year, and
you see the picture in my background there? Look at that beautiful
there
Justin
he
Herbert
is.
picture.
Yes,
yeah, he's playing golf this weekend.
Yeah, because I said in week 2 he has the worst coach in the NFL other than Joe Judge.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I'm going to look at these two teams and think who goes on next week and has the best chance of winning, should they have to go to Green Bay? I mean, Arizona brings a different set of problems, but I don't think they're built offense-wise and just overall temperament to succeed in Green Bay. I do think the Rams have the better opportunity because of the way they're built defensively. They are going to be able to match up. You'll have somebody that can match up with Devontae Adams and try and take him away. You'll have guys that can match up with the other receivers and then force you to say, okay, listen, Aaron, you're not going to sit here and go for 350 today. You're going to have to beat us on the ground. So I think overall, when you look at that aspect, I think the Rams are better suited to do it. They have the quarterback that's played in Green Bay numerous times, so he knows how to play out there. So if I think the only one of those two teams that's the really serious threat to go into Green Bay is the Rams.
I think the problem earlier this year when they played in Green Bay, Morris, he played that shell defense, which I am not a fan of. So they were playing back, and Rodgers was just picking apart. Devontae Adams had way too much space. They were keeping him away from Jalen Ramsey as much as possible. But lately, they start the game off, they're more aggressive on defense. Now, what really pissed me off last week against San Francisco, one, when they had 3rd and 1 and McVay decided to go empty backfield and they took the sack right before the end of the half, and then Morris went soft coverage and allowed San Francisco to drive down to get that field goal, that completely changed the momentum. So he cannot, in playoff time, you cannot play that shell defense. Even if you're up 2 scores, you keep the pressure on. And I think Morris will do that in these playoffs.
And you got to understand, too, the Packers' offensive line, it's the first time all year they've been healthy. Same with their defense. They're as healthy as they've been. That's why it's so impressive that they won 13 games, because their offensive line was at one point had 2 practice squad players on it, and they still won.
Well, I'll tell you what also helps, being in the NFC North.
Yeah.
It helped Tom Brady being in the AFC East all those years.
It did.
I got to do something really quick, because I just picked them up right now. My oldest son is a Viking fan, Christian.
Yeah.
I want you to tell these guys, what do you think about them Vikings firing Zimmer?
Finally, should have done it last season.
He's been calling for Zimmer's job for a long time.
There you go.
So is Andrea in Chicago with Matt Nagy.
Oh, Andrea must be doing cartwheels knowing Nagy's gone.
They got the whole gambit in Chicago. They got Nagy and Pace, so they're all very happy. If you're
they cleaned house at and Minnesota too.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a coach who knows how to use an RPO quarterback.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about teams cleaning house, how do you fire the GM the day before you fire the head coach?
Well,
the GM didn't call a sneak twice on his own goal line.
Well, the Giants don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Jet ownership was bad. No offense, Monty, but good God, I think it's a battle in New York teams. Who's got the worst owner? The Jets, the Giants, or the Knicks?
Well, the Jets owner is smart enough to stay out the way.
Listen, I don't think, again, there are certain guys who are coordinators. I think Brandon Staley's a coordinator. I think the Jets head coach is a coordinator. I mean, there are certain guys who are just not ready to be a head coach. And I'm sorry, Jet fans. I watched 4 games of the Jets this year, and just the coaching, just the decision making, the penalties. You talk about what happened here in Miami real quick, and they fired the coach where year in and year out they were one of the least penalized teams. That they never really beat themselves. Yeah, they got blown out in a couple games, but like Miami was on the right track here, and they fired their coach. And the Jets and the Chargers, those guys will not be coaching with those teams within the next 2 years. They're both on the hot seat right now. And if Justin Herbert, who's the only elite quarterback to not make the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs next year, I would have got rid of Staley at the end of the Raider games. As a matter of fact, I would have made him take the bus. You're not allowed on the plane. Take a Greyhound bus back. That's how bad it was.
He wasn't Lane Kiffin. And, someone, I was listening to a show the other day, and they were talking about, some guys were calling him about fire Staley. You got to give a guy more than 1 year to implement what he wants to do. Granted, I thought he made some mistakes this year, especially that Monday night game against Kansas City when he should have kicked a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down. He was, in a sense, a riverboat gambler as a coach. So, and when it worked, the fans loved it. But I wouldn't fire him after 1 year. You got to give him time.
I was calling for his job after week 2. So I've been consistent all year. His game management, his feel for the game. They did it in Arizona. They bring in, not only did they fire their coach, they fired Josh Rosen, their draft pick, and they brought in Kyler Murray
to begin with.
But again, they said, hey, this isn't working. Let's move in a different direction, and it worked. It doesn't work all the time. That's an outlier. But I've seen enough of Brandon Staley to know this guy is not a head coach.
Well, we'll see in the end. I mean, he'll be back next year, so you'll get to gripe for another season at least. Let's talk about the other possible matchup in the next round. That would be, of course, the Dallas Cowboys going to Tampa Bay and getting some revenge.
I'm glad you're counting those chickens before they hatch, but I'm not doing it. I don't do it, especially in playoff time, because boy, oh boy, there's nothing worse than that gut check of thinking you got everything laid out in front of you. But
yeah.
Just for the fact that we're about ratings on this show,
that's right.
I will indulge in this conversation. And first of all, listen, I think that is honestly the better matchup in the divisional round for the Dallas Cowboys than the Packers.
Than the Packers are.
And the reason being is you have 2 games to get ready for Green Bay if you can win those first 2 matchups, all right, and play your best ball, as opposed to getting through this weekend and then going to Green Bay and thinking that a well-rested Green Bay team is not going to be ready for you after 2 weeks. But here's the caveat to that. I think everything that's going on with the Bucs plays in Dallas's favor. These 2 teams, when they were both, well, I won't say they were both fully loaded, but offensively, they were both fully loaded going into week 1. We saw how that went. It was a slugfest to the end. Dak comes down, gets the big field goal, and then Tom Brady does Tom Brady things. So now you remove Godwin from that situation. You remove Brown from that situation. And even if they have all of their backs back next week and Dallas comes in there, I think Dallas's defense, with the pass rush that they have, with the ability to cover the receivers that'll be playing for Tampa Bay going forward, I think that's a way better matchup for the Cowboys going in as opposed to it was before when they still had those guys available on the roster. So even though they had a chance to beat them before, their chances would greatly increase of beating Tampa, even if it is in Tampa, with the fact that you're missing 2 Pro Bowl receivers that Tom Brady no longer has. So I think that's where you match up. You can look at Jordan Lewis. He can match up with any one of their slot receivers now. You look at on the outside Brown. Guess what? Brown's going to be matched up with somebody he can evenly match up with now. There's not going to be an Antonio Brown lined up across from him. There's not going to be a Godwin lined up across from him. And Diggs did a great job against Evans the first time. I think he'll be fine against Evans the second time. All right. So then it's just Gronkowski, and they could bracket Gronkowski now because they can match up one-on-one elsewhere and put pressure on the quarterback with a full complement of pass rushers. So Tom Brady will have to get off his spot this time around.
And
so
one
I think
of the things, I'm sorry, Greg and Jeff, you guys could, back this up. Dallas sideline to sideline is probably the fastest defense in the league, right?
Yeah.
So, and what does Brady like to do? Throw it over the middle, go diagonally. That's not going to work now. You got to throw it deep. You got to take advantage with a double move on the wide receiver to try to get Diggs to bite. But if you want to throw over the middle against Dallas, you can't.
He won't have the two guys that he did that with.
That's what I'm saying.
Godwin and Brown, they're gone, right?
And he wasn't able to do it the first time around.
That's right. They really weren't able to. And Micah got burned on the one play in that first game, in his very first game there, and everybody was after him. Well, the level that this kid's at now compared to week one, that leap is just huge.
I'm going to go out and say this right now. If that matchup happens in the divisional round, Tom Brady is going to be going home to his kids, and it's not even going to be close. Dallas will blow them out.
And I'll say this finally, because I know we got to get going. Mm-hmm. If that happens in the next round, I'm going to put like a parental blocker on my TV, because those are the two teams that I despise the most. I'll just watch like a black screen. I'll actually be rooting for Dallas, to be honest with you, if that happens.
All right. Well, Monty, who's the guest on the show this week?
Okay, so this week we have a huge show. We have former NFL quarterback. It's going to be Saturday at 11 a.m. for the wild card games. We're going to have Gus Farad. We're going to have Rico, Show Me the Money Graziano, talking about the Steelers. Levi Chartero is going to talk about the Bills. And George Lopez is going to come back and talk about the Rams.
There you go. We don't have to ask George because you know where he's going to be now. Greg, what do you got going on the rest of this week besides your show?
I think I'm going to probably drop another little Greg's Gripes podcast here on things that bother me in the world of sports, and get that happening a little bit more often. And other than that, it's going to be watching all of these games. It's going to be a really good weekend on this side. I think this is where we see the offense. On the other side, I think we might all be put to sleep. But okay.
Well, don't forget, folks. No Huddle Necessary is next. All right, we have also the AFC preview Friday night, 7:00, same bat time, same bat channel. And I don't know if Dom will be able to get his internet back up working for Friday, but we will definitely be here. All right, and with that note, we're going to make sure we get out on time so they can get on the air on time. So we're going to be a good show and make sure we get off on time. But thanks, guys.
All right.
A great job tonight. Monte Perez, George Lopez, great Cowboys. I'm Jeff Barnes. Everybody have a great night. Take care. Thanks for watching.